We've seen that the value added by machine translation is quite questionable in audiovisual translation. And I feel that developers, in spite of that, don't pay enough attention to other technologies and practices that might be much more beneficial and less costly. We've already mentioned CAT features that are very common in other types of translation, but very rarely implemented in subtitling software, especially concordancing, which is searching translation memories. And it is something that could really help much more than one machine translated sentence when you have access to lots of examples of the same sentence or same expression being translated into the other language. Concordancing can also be of great help when it comes to consistency. For example, when several people are working on the same program, on the same series, for example. We've also mentioned term base or glossary lookup, which can be quite helpful, although not so much in audiovisual translation, but it can be helpful for documentaries, for example. And then there's my favorite feature, which is autocomplete. You've seen a screenshot of a CAT tool. Now I'd like to show you close-up of the autocomplete function. Here it's an example of a text being translated from English into Czech, and as soon as you press the first key with the first letter of the word you are going to write, you get a suggestion from the autocomplete feature. So it could be very helpful in audiovisual translation as well. Now, if we talked about machine translation as a source of inspiration, then these tools, concordancing and autocomplete, can really be much more beneficial than machine translation. But there are also other CAT features that would be very helpful, such as filtering. After all, when I mentioned concordancing, I'd like to say that it's a feature known from language Korpora, which is also a tool which can be very helpful. And unfortunately, there are not too many Korpora of subtitles, with the exception of fan subs, of course. There are large Korpora with fan subs. Now, another tool I can think of is dictation software, which is often chosen by translators as an alternative to machine translation to improve their performance and also perhaps to prevent repetitive strain injury. But very often dictation applications don't support subtitling software or vice versa. So if you try to use dictation software in subtitling, what you often encounter is problems with misplaced spaces, hyphens, wrong capitalization, and dictation software also can have problems with colloquial vocabulary and morphology, because after all, dictation software is especially developed with professions like lawyers and doctors in mind. And that's why some dictation applications even change colloquial expressions to standard expressions, which is something you don't want. But again, all these tools should be optional. It should be like a buffet ready for the feast. After all, we as translators can use dictionaries, but it's also an optional tool. Nobody forces you to use your dictionary. But, you know, I often feel that quality and performance could be improved by good old human collaboration, with good cooperation between the subtitler and the QCer, with constructive feedback. Very often we see that there's very little feedback from the client to the subtitler. Another thing I can think of is good annotations on difficult expressions by script authors or by native speakers, because an annotation or an explanation of a very obscure slang term can save us translators and subtitlers much more time than machine translation. Also, since audiovisual content is often translated into multiple languages at the same time, I feel that we could, if we could collaborate, those of us who are translating the same thing into several languages at the same time, I think we could also help each other and improve the quality and the performance. And for all of this, of course, you also need some appropriate tools, appropriate technologies, and I feel that all of this can improve the sustainability in our profession. But back to machine translation. When machine translated suggestions are offered, I feel that it should be they should be easy to delete or hide, because it should be up to each and every subtitler whether or not he or she wants to use machine translation suggestions or not. And ideally, they should only be displayed on demand. In other words, machine translation suggestions should not come pre-filled in the boxes. Well, so that's the technical side.